All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with the Librarian, which is being offered by the Cleveland Health Sciences Library here at Case. We offer these Lunch and Learns once a month, so be sure to check our campus groups page for upcoming sessions. I'm going to share the link to that in the chat right now. All right. So today's topic is going to be using Covidence to enhance your systematic review process. And my name is Melissa Pulis. I'm a librarian here at the Cleveland Health Sciences Library, and I'll be moderating today's session. But before we start, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's presentation is going to be a very brisk 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please place them in the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom window. And so after the presentation, we'll run a live Q&A after the session, and we'll answer your questions at that time. As we go along, Tom's going to mention some resources, and so I'll be sharing the relevant links in the chat as well, so keep your eye on that. And finally, please note that we'll email the recording and the slides to you after the webinar. So now on to today's presentation, I'd like to introduce Tom Hayes. And Tom is our collection development and engagement librarian, and also the lead of the systematic review service here at the Cleveland Health Sciences Library. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Melissa. So I am going to go over Covidence with you. This is going to be a 30,000-foot view because this realistically could go on for well over an hour, and I've got about 15 minutes to cover a lot of ground. One of the things I'm not going to go through, which I intended to, is how you access it. Melissa is going to put a couple links into the chat that give you an overview of how to access the case version of Covidence and to request an invitation. When you do so, please use your case.edu email address or cwru.edu email address, so your account will be associated with our institutional account. Otherwise, it'll get a little complicated, but nevertheless, we can always work things out. If for whatever reason you have difficulty accessing Covidence, either email me or you can always email support@covidence.org. And they are pretty responsive, so they should take care of it for you. So when you create an account in Covidence and then you log in for the very first time, you're essentially going to see what you're seeing on my screen right now. The only difference will be likely that there will be nothing there for you. In my case, I have, and that's just a caveat to say that if you have created reviews in the past, your own personal reviews, you might see those. And that's what you see at the top of mine. So you can see where it reads your reviews. So these are reviews that I created personally. They have absolutely nothing to do with the case account. And so they are limited. If you have your own set of reviews, I believe you can only import up to 500 citations. So there is a restriction on your personal, unless you personally subscribe to it. That changes when you use the institutional account, which has unlimited reviews, and I'm not even sure what the upward limit is on citations, but I know it's fairly significant. So in this case, you can see these are case institutional related reviews that I have and am a part of. And then further down, if you are affiliated with a review from another institution, you will see those as well. And when you log in to the institutional case account, if you're working on a systematic review with a big team, and that team is expansive, you can add reviewers from essentially anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, and that will fall under the auspices of our institutional account. So again, this is sort of the landing screen for you. You can start a brand new review. I'm not going to go through that process simply because when I show you the review I created for today's demonstration, they're practically identical in the way you can manage the settings for a review. So I will go over that when I get to it. And Covidence is very helpful. They have demo reviews. They have a knowledge base. They have what's called the Covidence Academy. There are lots of videos. There are lots of instructional opportunities for you. For instance, today I am not going to be able to get to data extraction or creating risk of bias templates. So that is something that is absolutely covered in the knowledge base and the Covidence Academy. So when you create a review, and I'm going to use this one here, hypnotism and smoking. When you create a review for the first time, you're going to be in this screen. It essentially will load into this. And it'll be completely empty. It is a form that you will have to fill out. And you will just go step by step through this process to create your review. And in this case, I created a review on hypnotism and smoking. So I named it here. You'll want to use an original name. You can choose the type of review that you are going to create. So in this particular case, I went with a systematic review, although you can do scoping, rapid umbrella, literature reviews, and you can do other, including qualitative reviews. When you select a systematic review, it does influence the way Covidence is set up. Covidence originally was primarily affiliated with Cochrane. So it originated with the idea of doing intervention systematic reviews and meta-analyses. So that's one of the focuses it's coming from. And then you can choose the question type. So there are a variety. In this case, I chose an intervention, but you can choose others. And you can choose the area of research that you are going to be utilizing. The only real point of influence on this selection is when you choose medical and health sciences, it opens up a few things that are not available in the others. And that is specifically because the medical and health sciences is going to be oriented toward randomized controlled trials and meta-analyses. And when you select the medical and health sciences, you're going to get some automation options that you will not get with the other selections. And it includes this tag references reporting on randomized controlled trials. And that is defined by the Cochrane library. It has its own specific terminology that surrounds randomized controlled trials. And that is what is used by Covidence when it is using its machine learning to identify any imported references you have as to whether or not they are randomized controlled trials or not. Another automated option is to remove references that are reporting on non-randomized controlled trials. So again, if you're selected a different type of review or a different question type, that may not be as relevant. But if you are doing a systematic review of interventions or a meta-analysis, you will be interested in sort of weeding out those references that are not randomized controlled trials. And just be aware too that nothing disappears. Covidence is very transparent. So anything that is weeded out, sorted out, set aside is always available to you to review. So for instance, in the review that you're going to see here, I believe Covidence using that sort of machine filter of non-RCTs eliminated about 80 citations. And I will show you that you can look at them and then review them and decide whether or not you think it did what you thought it was going to do. And then it also provides a suggestion on the data extraction model. And that is actually down here at the bottom. You can kind of see the different extraction types. So again, if you are doing a meta-analysis or you're looking at randomized controlled trials, specifically with intervention, you're probably going to want to use the data extraction one as your tool. And I'll talk a little bit more about data extraction at the end again, but I'm not going to really go into template design. And extraction 2 is more for like qualitative analyses. With the data extraction 1, another point of importance here is it is designed to work with Cochrane's review manager. So at the end of, like when you go through the whole process of this systematic review process in Cochrane or in Covidence, you can then export that data at the end directly into RevMan and use that in Cochrane and on the web-based application that they have and just go straight from there. When you choose to create a project that is on randomized controlled trials, it will automatically set the number of reviewers required to screen, to look at full text review and data extraction as 2. It is not limited to 2. You can add as many team members as you like, but the default is 2. And that is simply because when you are conducting a systematic review, there is the need to avoid risk of bias, and you want to have 2 independent reviewers, and those 2 independent reviewers will be blinded from each other. And that automatically is created when you create this project using a systematic review or using a randomized controlled trials and medical health sciences as your area of research in Covidence. You can select the purpose of the review, and there are a variety. It's only showing you 2 here, but I think there are like 5 selections. This is a main review and the reason or the purpose for it. And you can select a number of different things. And again, if this is an assignment for undergrads, or if it's something that's a little less rigorous, you can change your extraction model. You can also change the settings for reviewers. So if you want a student to go through and do this, as a learning opportunity for themselves, then it can be 1 reviewer. But note that it will be very difficult to change it retrospectively. In fact, it would be something that the people at Covidence would have to do on the back end. And if anybody else has looked at it, it will kind of put into question some of the blinding implications for that. You can add reviewers. So all of the tabs for the settings are right across the top here. And again, when you're creating your review for the first time, this is the process that you will go through. Once the review is created, know that you can modify these anytime. So nothing is set in stone. You don't have to sweat the decision like it's life or death. Anything can be modified at a later point. In this particular case, for the purposes of demonstration, I've got 2 reviewers, me, myself. I didn't add the third one, which would be I guess. But you can add as many reviewers as you like. So if you wanted to invite someone else, you would just simply click the invite new reviewer, add their name and their email address, and then send the invitation. And they will get it. They have to accept it. And once they do, they will be then a part of the team. Under the team settings, you can modify, probably the most important thing is the rules that govern who does what during the review. For the most part, you're going to want everyone on your team to be able to manage the screening and the full text review. But when it comes to things like when you're doing screenings, there's yes, no, maybe. At the end, there's going to be conflicts. In fact, you can see just here on this title abstract screen that there are 23 conflicts. So when I went through and did the title abstract screening, I said yes, no, maybe on some of these, and some of them obviously are in conflict. And you might want to make a decision on who can resolve these conflicts. And usually it's going to be the person who's responsible for the project itself. You would want, ultimately, somebody's going to have to make a decision about whether to include or exclude a study. And that applies also for the full text review. So you have your conflicts here, and it also applies for data extraction. So at some point, when the data, everybody does this blinded, so everybody will go through the data extraction process too. There's going to have to be a consensus that is reached around some of the decisions that have been made about the data. And you need, again, a person who can make that decision as a final decision. You can define eligibility criteria. So this just helps in the screening. And it is in no way legal or binding to the project that you're working on. So, when you're looking at like a PICO format, you've got your population and you can say, I want to include these concepts. Actually, I didn't do a very good job here because I've got non-population related items in this population field. But you can kind of see, so you would want to include smokers. Maybe you don't want to include people who use chewing tobacco in this, as an example. The intervention, I've got hypnosis or hypnotism or hypnotic. You would not in this case, I'm not interested in pharmacologic interventions and so forth. And you can add these as much as as much as you want. You can also use this eligibility criteria to manually populate what are called highlights. And again, I just used inclusion exclusion criteria. And you can, when you're doing the title abstract screening, you can turn these on. And what it will do is it will highlight in green the inclusion criteria that you want and in red the exclusion. So at a glance, when you're looking at the title abstract, you can make some kind of determination just visually based on those highlights. You can also modify, when it comes to the full text review, your inclusion and exclusion criteria. It is pre-populated in Covidence to include some of the more common reasons for excluding studies. So if the study design is wrong, if the patient population is wrong, if you're only interested in, I don't know too many 3-year-old smokers. So if you wanted to eliminate, the pediatric population, there's a number of different reasons that you can exclude studies. And you can also add study tags. And these are really good for sorting studies, and you'll see it when I go into the title abstract screening. I imagine that it's more important if you have a very large set of citations. In this case, you're going to see that I had about 130 to begin with. 20 or so were duplicates. 80 were thrown out automatically because they weren't randomized controlled trials. And it left me with, I think, about 25 studies. 25 studies is not a lot to go through. There's not going to be much of a need to put study tags on them. And I would also caution that when you add study tags to the studies in Covidence, they're visible by everyone. So even though you've blinded the sets during the title screening and the full text screening or the full text review, the study tags are visible. So you just need to be aware that if there's anything in the study tags that could potentially bias a response, just be aware that that is there. So that is the settings for the review project. Again, when you start your review, it's all set up and, boom, here you are. You've got your project. Again, this will be completely empty. There's going to be absolutely nothing here. Covidence itself describes itself as project management software for systematic reviews. So just be aware, it is not a citation manager. It's not citation management software. It will not create bibliographies for you. That's not the purpose of it. It is to manage a systematic review and to add a team of people who can go through citations blinded from each other, taking into consideration risk of bias and things like that, as well as at the end to have a data extraction tool. So when you import your references, you would simply click on import, and you can import into any part of the process. So, if you've got an EndNote file and you've already gone through those EndNote citations and you've screened them and you want to just import directly into full text review, you can do that. But most people are going to start with the screening piece, and you would select screen, you would select your source. So this is manually done. Again, Covidence is not bibliographic software, so it's not citation management software. So it's not going to detect the databases from which you're pulling things. You have to manually define that. So if you're pulling something from PubMed, you should put that there, and then you choose the file that you're going to upload into Covidence, and then you import it. It will go through the process of processing all the citations. The more citations you bring in from other sources, it will deduplicate those. You can see your import history. So in this case, you can see I did 2 different file imports, one from PubMed and one from Embase, and you can see the number of references that were originally brought in, the duplicates that were found, and what was added to screening or not. When you import references and you define where the databases came from and all that, it automatically populates your Prisma flow diagram. So you can see here, I had 176 studies. It threw out 22 because they were duplicates. It left 131. The automatic machine learning piece for randomized controlled trials eliminated 86. That left around 25. I haven't gone into the full text review yet, so there's nothing here. But you can see that it generates that Prisma flow diagram very nicely, and you can download it and export it for use in your final review. So when citations are pulled into the title abstract screening piece, you're going to get, it's essentially going to look like this. So here's some conflicts, but this is what the title abstract screening piece will look like. So when you originally pull in all of your citations, this is the screen that you're going to see in the title abstract screening. And again, you can see I have the highlights turned on. You can turn those on and off if you want. But you can see that it indicates visually terms that are part of the inclusion criteria. And you are simply going to go through this title abstract screening process, and you're going to hit no or yes to whatever you want. And again, everybody's blinded to one another, so you're not going to see what other people are doing, and they're not going to see what you're doing. I don't really recommend using maybe, because maybe is yes. So essentially it's no or yes. It's not going to have any impact on the final decision making. Ultimately, you're going to have to decide yes or no.
Tom, we have about 5 minutes left, so I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. So some other things to point out. Again, it does deduplicate when you import. So here you can see 22 duplicates were removed. If you click on that, you're going to see a side-by-side. It looks very much like EndNote, if you're familiar with that. So you can see the primary reference on the left, and then on the right, you can see the duplicate, and you can match them up yourself to see whether that's actually what you think. If you disagree, you can say it's not a duplicate, and it'll go back to the screening piece. And again, it will tell you how it detects duplicates. When you are on the reviews page, you'll see under the title abstract screening, this is your own individual page. You're not seeing anybody else on your team. This is all you. So you can see your progress. You've gone through all the citations, and you can see where the conflicts are. And in this case, I'm the one responsible for the review, so I can resolve the conflicts. In the full text review, so after you go through all the title, after everybody goes through the title and abstract screening, it will then move on to the full text review. And you can see I had 45 studies. I've voted on 2 of them. The other 43 I have not. Here you can make a decision to include or exclude studies. If you do decide to exclude a study in the full text review, you have to give a reason. And this will go into the Prisma flow diagram. So again, you're going to make a choice whether it was the wrong patient population, whether it's the wrong comparator, and so forth. You can manage full text here. You can manually import. So you can see I manually imported an article here. You'll want to do that with all of the articles, and you can just open it up so I can see what my article is here, and I can begin reading it. This comes into play when you do the data extraction, because it will use these PDFs for that. Also, by default, when you're going into the full text review, Covidence automatically imports open access PDFs. So if you do in fact have open access files, the DOI is important, and Covidence will automatically pull that in. Once you are done with the full text review, you will move on to the data extraction piece. And I can show very quickly what that looks like. I'm going to stop my share. And this is just an image of what it would look like when you're in the title, or when you're in the full text, the data extraction piece. So on the left, you would have your PDF of an article that you have, and on the right, you would have your data extraction template. And it is broken down, so you can see there's the methods section, the interventions, the outcomes, result data, and essentially you would scroll to that area within the PDF that you're looking at, and then you would take the data from the left side and copy it and paste it into the template that you have on the right. I know that Covidence is working on an automated version of this, and I know there's a lot of tools out there now that we're aware of and looking at. They're doing the AI automatically populating data from PDFs. I don't think it's at the point where you want it to be at yet, so a lot of this is still going to be manual. But just know that these two templates here would exist. So you have the quality assessment, which is, again, the risk of bias, and then you have the data extraction piece. And ultimately, again, when you're finished with this, all of this would be something that you could export into Review Manager. And I apologize for going through this as fast as I did. We are going to put, I think Melissa's going to put in the chat a link to an earlier vendor demonstration, and it's over an hour. So it goes through exactly the same stuff that I just went through, but it goes through it in a much more relaxed manner than I did. And you'll be able to see every step along the way through creating the study, through doing the title abstract screening, the full text review, and even data extraction and the templates there. So that's
Thanks,
it.
Tom.
That was the whirlwind.
Yeah, that was amazing. I hope everybody gets a chance to use Covidence. If I didn't see any questions in the chat yet, but if you have some, please put them in now. While I'm waiting a second to see if there is any, I'm going to share the sign up links to Covidence again. I know we kind of glossed over this, but essentially you can create a free Covidence account, but the library licenses an institutional license. So you get full access through our library's license. So that's the link we're giving you in the chat right now, so you can take advantage of the full version of Covidence. So there aren't any questions and we're wrapping up on time. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. And to let you know that if you have any questions or you want to meet with a librarian to talk about Covidence, setting it up, getting an account or using it, you can email us at askchsl@case.edu, or you can contact Tom directly. Also, I mentioned that we'll be sending an email with the slides. Oh, we don't have slides for this one, with the recording of this webinar. And you can also find it on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to share those links in the chat. So that wraps it up. We're right on time. I want to thank everybody again for coming. And please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.